Imagine possessing, like, the ultimate superpower. You physically cannot die.
Right, like playing a video game with God mode prominently turned on.
Exactly. You take any hit, you survive any catastrophe, and you just keep walking. It sounds like a blessing, right?
Most people would say yes.
Yeah, but now imagine being trapped in an endless, hostile wasteland where your inability to die isn't a blessing at all. It is literally the beginning of a never-ending nightmare.
Because someone removed the game over screen entirely.
Exactly. They removed the game over screen and left you stranded in the void. So for this deep dive, we're exploring a deeply atmospheric narrative from our sources today. It's a text titled Chasing Death, Episode 41, The Pit of Bones.
And it's a fascinating one.
It really is. To really grasp the gravity of this survival story, you might actually want to turn off the lights. Seriously, sit in a dark room and just let your mind quiet down. Because this isn't just your standard man versus nature survival story.
No, not at all. It's an exploration of ancient darkness, immortality, and, well, the absolute limits of human sanity.
Yeah, it really is.
It functions as this profound psychological case study wrapped up in a survival narrative. We are stepping into the shoes of a protagonist named Zayn.
Right.
And Zayn is immortal, yet he's wandering through this environment that feels as though it's actively hunting him. The tension doesn't come from whether or not he's going to lose his life.
Because he can't.
Right, he can't. The tension comes from the terrifying possibilities of what an endless life might be forced to endure when you push it way past the boundaries of the known world.
So let's set the scene for you. Picture this totally desolate, rolling wasteland of sand. Zayn is traveling completely alone. Well, except for his horse.
There's one companion out there.
Exactly. And he's 2 days out from the ancient city of Nineveh. Now, historically, Nineveh was one of the greatest cities of antiquity located in Upper Mesopotamia.
Right.
By Zayn's calculations, he should have easily crossed into the borders of the Kingdom of Syria by now, but instead the geography is just, it's completely stopped making sense.
I believe the map just dissolves.
Yeah. There are no landmarks. There are no boundaries. It's literally just dunes unspooling in every single direction. And the desert is offering absolutely no mercy.
And right away, the text forces us to confront the biology and really the burden of forever.
Yeah, the physical reality of it.
Exactly. Zayn's immortal body has entirely stopped registering thirst. The biological panic that you or I would feel in a severely dehydrated state, it simply doesn't happen for him.
Wow.
But his horse is a mortal creature, and it is failing rapidly. It's dragging its hooves through the sand, severely dehydrated, just on the absolute verge of collapse.
So Zayn knows he needs to find water immediately. Not to save himself, obviously, but to save his only companion in this whole void.
Right.
And this leads to a really fascinating moment of survivalism. Zayn relies on some incredibly obscure ancient lore. He starts scanning the dunes for a very specific, rare, thorny tree.
Which is basically a needle in a haystack out there.
Yeah, seriously. But he finds one. Just this solitary, swollen trunk. And he draws his dagger to pierce the bark. And a stream of clear water just gushes out, enough to frantically hydrate the horse.
It's amazing. And why does he know this? It shows that Zayn isn't just an experienced traveler. He is a walking repository of centuries of geographical memory.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
I mean, the text notes that a single trunk of this specific tree holds enough water to sustain 50 men.
50 men, wow.
Yeah, it's a mechanism of the deep desert ecosystem. It's a plant that draws moisture from these deep subterranean reserves and just stores it. But more importantly, it really highlights the state of Zayn's mind.
How so?
Well, think of human memory like a computer's hard drive. For a normal person, a lifetime of memories fills it up nicely, right? But for a 2,000-year-old man like Zayn, that hard drive has been overwritten thousands and thousands of times.
So everything just blurs together?
Exactly. New traumas and experiences just blur into this heavy numbness. But these tiny, highly specific, life-saving details like the biology of a rare desert tree, those are permanently etched into his survival instinct.
That makes total sense. But even after saving the horse, this creeping dread really starts to set in. As the evening shadows merge and the stars finally come out, Zayn tries to navigate by the constellations.
Right, trying to get a bearing.
Yeah, and he realizes something impossible. He is drifting inexplicably eastward. He's moving further and further away from Syria. He's not lost because he's confused. He is lost because some unseen, hidden force is pulling him.
And we really have to look at the mechanics of this world.
Yeah.
It's not just a bad sense of direction. Zayn actually describes it as feeling like something has taken hold of his reins.
Oh, wow. That's visceral.
It is. There's an unseen, localized gravitational pull towards the deep heart of the desert. In the lore of this universe, magic and ancient deities actually exert physical weight.
So he's being dragged.
Essentially, yes, he is being magnetically drawn by a localized anomaly. The environment is actively fishing for him.
That is so creepy. And when midnight hits, the isolation just shatters whatever stoicism he has left. The horse falters again, but this time from pure starvation.
Because there's no grass, nothing.
Not a single blade. Zayn is desperate at this point, and he calls out into the ether. He calls to the sister of Baltus. He calls to the spirit of Vanya. And finally, to the Holy Spirit of the venerable Saint Orion.
And what happens?
The response is absolute silence. Nothing.
See, the entities he calls out to are crucial for understanding his timeline. Baltus is tied to ancient pagan fertility and protection deities.
Okay, so very old.
Very old. And Vanya seems to represent a personal spirit or maybe a past companion from a totally different era of his life. And St. Orion is obviously a Christian figure.
So he's covering all his bases.
Exactly. Zayn has lived through epochs of faith. He has outlived entire pantheons of gods. He is calling out to a whole timeline of belief systems, just hoping at least one still holds jurisdiction over the earth.
And when they all go silent.
It signifies that he has crossed into a domain where the established metaphysics of the world just cease to exist. He is totally off the cosmic map.
Which brings up a wild realization for him. He actually wonders, if he has finally entered the Valley of Death.
Because he doesn't feel fear in that silence.
Exactly. He feels a profound peace. He hopes he is finally going to die. I mean, you mentioned his 2,000-year lifespan. The text details that he has been stabbed, trampled by elephants, shot with arrows, burned alive, and drowned.
Just an unimaginable amount of suffering.
Every conceivable torment, all overlapping in his mind. For you or me, death is the ultimate tragedy. For him, it's the one blessing he hasn't been allowed to receive.
But then, of course, his sharp vision and his steady limbs betray that hope.
Yeah.
He is perfectly healthy. The delirium of a dying man just isn't coming. And the narrative immediately gives us this really visceral demonstration of his unnatural biology.
The snake.
Yes, a highly venomous desert viper slides across his calf in the dark.
And Zayn, almost with this weird, idle amusement, reaches out to play with it. The snake gets agitated, hisses, and sinks its fangs right into his hand.
Right into his flesh.
Yeah. Now, if you or I get beaten by a viper in the deep desert, it's over. The venom breaks down our tissues, our blood clots, we die in absolute agony. But for Zayn, the mechanism completely reverses.
That's wild.
The snake writhes violently and dies instantly in the sand. And Zayn just feels a little drowsy and goes to sleep. I mean, what is actually happening in his bloodstream there?
It's this fascinating biological inversion. His blood isn't just immune to the venom, it is fundamentally anti-mortal.
Anti-mortal.
Yeah, think about it. His cells have accumulated centuries of arcane resistance.
Yeah.
His biology is calcified into something so ancient and unyielding that it is practically toxic to normal mortal life.
Wow, so he's the poison.
Exactly. When the snake injects its venom, it's like a drop of ordinary poison hitting an entire ocean of immortal bioweaponry. The sheer concentration of time and unnaturally preserved life force in Zayn's blood surges backward, and it instantly kills the fragile, mortal creature that tried to harm him.
That is incredible. So the venom merely acts as, like, a heavy sedative for Zayn.
Just makes him take a nap.
But when he wakes up from that sedated sleep in the pre-dawn light, the psychological horror really kicks in.
Because of the horse.
Yes. The horse is gone, completely vanished. No tracks, no blood, no signs of a struggle. Now, okay, I need to push back on this a little bit because a massive horse does not just evaporate.
Right, physically speaking.
Yeah. If a predator, like a desert lion or something, dragged it away, there would be drag marks in the sand. There would be desperate neighing.
There'd be a struggle.
Exactly. The ghost ship analogy gets thrown around a lot, where a crew just vanishes without a trace. But physically, how does a horse disappear? Is the desert itself a supernatural predator swallowing things whole? Or is Zayn's mind fracturing from the isolation and the toxic fatigue?
Well, you're hitting on the core ambiguity of the world building here. And it really requires looking at the environment as a living entity.
Okay, go on.
The text strongly implies a hostile magical geography. It's not just a standard ghost ship scenario. The desert here functions almost like a carnivorous pitcher plant.
Oh, that's a terrifying image.
Right. It is an organism that lures and absorbs prey. The horse wasn't just dragged away by an animal. It was either physically consumed by the shifting sands of this localized anomaly, or it was lured into a geographical blind spot.
And what was the bait?
The sound of water.
Right, because Zayn dismisses the hallucination theory when his sharp senses pick up something concrete, the rhythmic murmur of water. He figures the dying horse must have heard it and wandered off to drink.
It's the only logical conclusion.
So he follows this gentle sound behind a cluster of dunes, and he finds a crystal clear spring cascading from an elevated rocky outcrop.
And this stream carves a narrow channel right through the sand. Zayn follows it down a gentle slope, right into a cavernous opening at the base of a great rocky hill.
Into the dark.
Yes, the transition here is critical. We move from the agoraphobic terror of an endless, unspooling desert right into the claustrophobic terror of a subterranean world.
He steps into the dark without hesitation. And as he descends, guided by this strange, ambient, subterranean light, the cavern expands into a massive enclosed valley hidden inside the mountain itself.
Like a whole world underground.
Yeah, the rocky walls arch high above into a natural ceiling. But he quickly realizes he isn't alone. He spots the crumbling remnants of ancient stone dwellings.
A settlement.
Yeah. He smells a recently extinguished fire. And then he smells the metallic stench of raw meat.
And that's where he finds the complete skeletal remains of his horse. Strips of fresh red meat are still clinging to the ribs. So the mystery of the horse's whereabouts is violently solved. But adjacent to the horse, in a deep crevice, he finds something much worse.
The bone pit.
Yeah, an enormous mound of human bones and grinning skulls. The text notes it is the accumulation of many, many years.
And Zayn tries to rationalize it at first, right? He thinks, maybe this is an ancient mass grave.
But the freshly stripped carcass of his horse completely shatters that logic.
Right. He has stumbled into an active settlement of man-eaters, and before he can even process this, echoing voices approach. Zayn retreats into a shadowed cleft among the rocks.
He has to hide.
Yeah, and from there, he has a clear view of the open cavern. From the gloom, a hunting party emerges. 15 to 20 wild, feral men. They are bare, wearing rough fringes of woven grass and carrying heavy spears.
And they are alone.
No, they are forcefully dragging a chained prisoner who is weeping and stumbling.
They drag the captive to the ruined stone walls, bind him securely to heavy boulders, and just begin this frenzied, guttural dance.
It's terrifying.
They strike flint, build a roaring fire, and the entire social structure of this hidden world begins to reveal itself. This isn't just about survival or hunger, It is a deeply ingrained, ritualistic society, cut off from the evolution of normal human civilization.
Okay, I have to pause the narrative again because this brings up a massive question for me. Zayn is 2,000 years old. He has survived the rise and fall of empires.
Yeah, you've seen it all.
He has likely seen the Inquisition, the sack of Rome, brutal ancient warfare. Why does this particular scene, a group of primitive cannibals, shake him so deeply? Shouldn't an immortal be totally desensitized to human cruelty by now?
It's a brilliant question. And to understand his terror, we have to look past the surface brutality and understand the loss of agency.
Okay.
When you are immortal, the worst thing isn't dying. Dying is impossible. The worst thing is the loss of bodily autonomy.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. In war, there is a logic. There's territory, politics, religion. You can fight back, you can negotiate, or you can just endure until the war ends. But what he is witnessing here is primal consumption.
Just meat.
Exactly. Imagine being Zayn. If these feral men capture him, they won't just torture him. They will hack him into pieces, roast his flesh, and consume him.
And because he can't die, what happens to his consciousness?
Exactly. That is the ultimate insight of this scenario. If your consciousness is irrevocably tied to your immortal nervous system and your body's dismembered and eaten, does your awareness split?
Oh my God.
Do you remain conscious as digested matter in the stomachs of wild men?
That is horrific.
The horror isn't just the cruelty of the act. It's the realization that immortality traps him as conscious meat. He is watching a fate that, for him, would be worse than any hell imaginable.
He's totally powerless to stop it.
Right. Because if he reveals himself to try and save the captive, he will be overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the horde.
That reframes the entire scene. We are watching this through the eyes of someone realizing they could be eternally trapped in the digestive tracts of cannibals.
It changes everything.
Meanwhile, The captive is begging for mercy, weeping bitterly, and the wild men just taunt him. They're jabbing him with spears. The fire roars to life, casting demonic shadows across the cave, and the savage chief bellows for silence in the name of the deities.
Because the ritual relies on an object of worship. One of the men produces a hideous black stone idol from a leather pouch and sets it near the fire.
The black idol.
Yeah. And the chief slices his own wrist, letting his blood fall onto the grotesque effigy. The savages erupt into a deafening cheer, screaming that the deity has accepted the sacrifice.
Let's talk about the symbolism of that idol and their deity for a second. The Lord of the Fire.
Very fitting.
It is, because fire represents consumption. It eats whatever it touches until there is absolutely nothing left. It perfectly mirrors the cannibals themselves. When the chief gives the order, the frenzied dance resumes. The chief lunges forward and drives his spear deep into the prisoner's stomach. A soul-shattering scream tears from the man's throat.
It's brutal.
He is writhing against his bonds, and the wild men view this agonized thrashing as twisted proof that their deity is pleased.
It is a complete inversion of the divine. Remember, Zayn called out to Saint Norian and the spirits of light in the desert, and he receives silence.
Right.
Here, in the belly of the earth, the only deity that answers is one of blood and fire. The chief fills a crude bowl with a dying man's blood, places it before the idol, and chants. Then, a heavy sword is drawn.
And the chained man is hacked into 4 pieces. The screams finally stop.
Yeah.
The chief takes a portion of the dismembered flesh, throws it onto the fire, and once it's roasted, he just tears into it with his teeth.
Oh, man. And the rest of the party follows right behind him.
Yeah. They carve pieces, eating with this ravenous delight. Zayn watches with tears in his eyes. The psychological impact of watching this primal devolution completely shatters his stoicism. He watches them strip the flesh clean and toss the bare bones and the skull right into the pit with the rest.
And after gorging themselves, they perform a final ecstatic dance over the flames. The chief lets out a piercing shriek, the others answer with wild laughter, and they vanish into the dark tunnels at the rear of the cave.
Just melting away into the rock.
Yeah. The echoing fades, and silence reclaims the cavern.
So Zayn cautiously steps out from the rocks and approaches the dying embers. The chief took the idol back, but he left behind a small, triangular fragment of black stone that broke off during the frenzy.
And Zayn takes it.
He picks it up and slips it into his pocket. And this is where the narrative pivots sharply. Zayn decides he must leave this valley immediately.
He has to get out.
He turns to retrace his steps toward the entrance, to follow that faint, ambient subterranean light back to the surface.
But the environment is a snare, remember? The moment he turns to leave, the trap springs shut. The strange ambient light that guided him down vanishes entirely. Absolute, impenetrable darkness swallows the cavern.
He is completely lost. He is trapped alive in the pitch-black earth, with an entire tribe of man-eating savages somewhere in the dark tunnels ahead of him.
And that leaves us with a deeply haunting question to ponder.
What's that?
Well, think about how you navigate a dark room in your own house. You know that brief flash of panic when you can't find the light switch?
Oh, absolutely. It's disorienting.
Now multiply that panic by eternity. We spend our entire lives fearing death, viewing it as the ultimate end. But if you possessed a body that could survive being butchered, dismembered, and eaten alive, does true terror only begin because you cannot die?
Wow. As you sit in the quiet of your room, let that thought linger. What happens when the darkness isn't an ending, but a forever?